Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. There is a new development about another round of talks. But before I get to the details of that talk, I want to start here. For those of our viewers coming from Luo Nyanza counties, this video will directly relate with you, because the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is that whether it was Samia Suluhu or Ramaphosa or any other way, the need for the protest to end could not be underestimated. I want you to watch this video of Millie Odhiambo breaking down. I've tried to do a translation about it.
Adie mochari jothurwa aneno nyithi joluo apaga chiel monindo piny ma jogi ogoyo gi bunde litna onge gimomiyo waiko nyithi joluo sate onge gimomiyo waiko nyithi joluo sate waneno nyithi joluo apaga chiel monindo piny waneno nyithindo apaga chiel monindo piny mago gi bunde aneno miyo mobiro ka miyo yuago nyathine jowa matogi mayuagi doge gin bende gin mana nyithi ji gin dhano mana kaka jomoko ng'wonna uru an gi lit mang'eny jachir an gi lit ok binegwa kaeti buogowa sate ni kiwuoyo timaki gi polis bimaka an ka ok ubi tuwe dhowa awachi koso kik awachi awacho okibitwe dhowa kata kudwa nego uru tok duneg joluo te.
That clip of Millie Odhiambo really broke me, because this is the truth, guys. People suffered, and there is that which she's saying there. She's referring to a woman who was standing next to her and seeing the way they had just walked out of the morgue and watched and viewed the bodies of the young men that were killed by the police. And according to that video clip, I could not watch it to the end because it's very emotive, and of course I would not want to be overwhelmed. She's actually saying there that they spoke with the other bunch who were injured and were still in the hospital. And there are those who were in the hospital that were giving testimonies about how those who shot them were people in uniform. And I have seen a lot of bravado and chest thumping, people talking about numbers. I have seen Mohamed Jichopevo, the Nyali member of parliament, bragging in public, saying how Uhuru Kenyatta funded the protest with 250 million. And I don't just get it. Does any amount to support protest justify the killing?
Aliyekuwa rais, aliyekuwa prime minister, aliyekuwa vice president, eti wanachanga shilingi milioni 5 kwa maafa ambao wao wenyewe wamesababisha. Wametumia shilingi milioni 250 katika maandamano. Your Excellency, Waswahili wanasema ng'ombe hazeeki maini. Bado mimi ni jichopevu. Hiyo ndio pesa walitumia. 250 million to cause chaos in Nairobi and some other parts of this great country of ours. Today you are dancing on the graves of our children, and we are not going to allow you to do that. Badi Mheshimiwa, please.
If Kenya Kwanza believe that Uhuru Kenyatta funded Azimio protests, now, is that a valid reason about killing? For a minute, we need to get it right. There is nowhere written that Raila Odinga has the monopoly of calling for protests. And to be more harsh enough, there is nowhere written that it is Luo community that should go and protest. I want to be very brutal here. Those who have been asking, why is Raila Odinga stopping the protests? And those who have been saying the way, how can the protests lower the cost of living? I think they should also be truthful and explain to the country, how is killing of innocent young men and women going to lower the cost of living? Yes. How is it not lowering the cost of living? How is Raila calling for protest going to lower the cost of living? Then, how is killing of innocent Kenyans, of protesters, going to lower the cost of living? For a minute, I think we need to sober as a country. I have seen the UDA leadership shamelessly coming out in public to defend police brutality. And it's not brutality, killing of the population. Brutality is sugarcoating it. And there have been a lot of spins and twists by those mocking, even those who come out to mourn, as if in this country, even mourning has become illegal, or even mourning needs a permission from the police. Just the other day, while Azimio la Umoja were organizing some event, I think the memorial service in one of the fields in Nakuru, the OCS, or rather some leaders, went there and that meeting was banned. The owners of the ground were told, it was a Catholic ground, they were told not to hold it. And that has happened even in Nakuru. It was not very easy, but the Catholic diocese in Nakuru allowed those who wanted to share their mourn, really allowed them to mourn. So when we are trivializing a mere act of people giving money to support and even mourning, but the truth of the matter is that we are shamelessly not being insensitive of this matter. And that is why, whichever way, it was very difficult, I think, for Raila, but I want to hold it very key. Raila Amolo Odinga, there was a need to end the protest. For those who understand in the Luo, it was not a must. Kwani? Oh. Let me get to the details. Now, in the context of ending the protest, Ruto and Raila have agreed to form a new phase of dialogue with a 10-member team and is going to be spearheaded by Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president of the Republic of Nigeria. I'm taking a lot of interest in Obasanjo because Obasanjo is a very close friend to Raila Odinga, and I think was recently in Germany with Raila, the recent tour that Raila had in Germany. Obasanjo is also a very close friend to Uhuru Kenyatta and has been part of the DRC peace process for quite some time. And it comes after the discussion about Suluhu came in the country, Nduto never met her. Then there was also Ramaphosa also tried and Ruto might have refused. So I don't know who brought in Obasanjo at what point, but we'll have to look at that in my next analysis. Now, Raila got his way because Raila insisted that we needed a neutral foreigner in the middle before they negotiate with William Ruto. So amidst the talk, the propaganda talk, but behind the scene, William Ruto knew very well that the need for that dialogue could not be underestimated. The membership of that team are 4 members outside parliament, non-parliamentarians. I think that's also a position that Azimio had insisted that they needed to include non-parliamentarians. Then the leader of majority and minority, so that is Chungwa and Wapiu and I. Then 2 MPs from each side of the political divide. So Azimio will produce 2 and Kenya Kwanza will produce 2. I understand one of the grounds, one of the recommendations is to ensure that those who are in the first batch of bipartisan talks are not into this. So maybe we'll see if that will be here. Why a foreigner? What do you think? Do you support the issue of a foreigner? Because this has really been explained, and if some very learned fellows in Twitter were asking, do we need a foreigner to lower the cost of living? Why do we need a dialogue? There's been that question. Probably, you know, it's going to be there. I am supportive of a foreigner for this 2 reasons. Number one, I think we are going to get another communication. We are going to get communication that will help us to separate propaganda. You know, in the first batch of bipartisan talks, that which Azimio la Umoja will come and say, and what the Kenya Kwanza team will go on top of the cars and say, were 2 different parallels. Were 2 parallels. Now, with Obasanjo, as someone who is want to capture it from journalistic point of view, as an editor, those who are editors, are going to pick what Obasanjo is saying. So if there is a press briefing, I don't expect to see Kenya Kwanza doing theirs and Azimio doing theirs. I think with Obasanjo, we are going to get the voice of reason and weed off propaganda. Number 2, for quite some time, it's going to attract the international attention and amplify the fact that we are in some sort of a crisis. I don't know what's the definition of a crisis. To me, I'm not still getting, because the people that have been arguing, is Kenya in a crisis? And I'm like, that question, how is that question supposed to be assessed? How is it even supposed to be answered? Because we have lost 30, I think now 37. We have over 300 people that had already caused some traffic in our jails, in our cells. And we had around, according to the police, I think around more than 100 people who are injured and are in hospitals. Then what is the level of a crisis? How many people needs to die for someone to say we are in a crisis? Or must a crisis be huge? You know, I've always been getting that question. So with a foreigner, according to me, it brings in the focus of we are in a crisis. If you ask me, we've been in a crisis. And I think, I don't know how you unleash terror on people, kill some members of the population, then the next day after 1 week, you move on top of the car and start asking us, where is the crisis? The crisis is that people have died. That's it. The crisis here is a mass action was called, and when the population went to the streets, some people died. That's already a crisis. So the fact that Obasanjo is coming in is also amplifies the notion that we're in a crisis. Number 2, and that is very important. But then I need to explain. That is very important because we are going to attract more interest and seriousness that it needs so that we weed off political contestation. Ruto wanted to be seen as if giving in to Raila's demands. I do believe that Raila insisted on a neutral man, but Ruto did not want. So it's a bit of it. I am coming back with an in-depth analysis on this, specifically on this second round of bipartisan talks. The last time I did one in April, and of course I want to come up with a very informed position, having looked at how the story is developing, so that I can explain to you guys in details what exactly is lying ahead of us.